Terry, now that you know who you're playing, is it not as much as you'd probably like them to, go the distance and play as long as possible? Is it nice to just have the opponent and start to work towards something?
Yeah, I mean, we, just like our hitting guys today, all of a sudden, as soon as they got in this morning, went right to the video and started to collect as much information on the pitching staff. And so, it's nice to know who we're facing. And obviously, they're a great club. Back-to-back years in the World Series, they're really good. So we're very excited to get a chance to play them.
Terry, two-pronged question on Uribe. How is he? And is the fact that there's a DH make it a little more advantageous to have him on the team? And secondly, on your rotation, have you decided anything games 1, 2, and 3?
Well, as far as Uribe goes, obviously, looks great in batting practice. The live pitching today should help indicate some things, how he feels, whether or not, even though he hasn't played in a couple weeks. But his presence, I think, if we can get him on, the fact we're going to take him anyway because we just, he's been to this dance before, and I think his presence in the clubhouse and on the bench would be huge. So, we'll make a decision on the roster or not. We won't do that until after probably even Monday. So, but the rotation is going to be Matt is going to be game 1, DeGrom game 2, Syndergaard game 3, and Steven Matz game 4. So we like going into Kansas City with our 1 and 2 guys, and Noah's pitched great at home. We thought that's a good mix, and obviously we think Steven Matz showed us, even though hasn't been into the depth into the games like he's going to do in the future, but. Well, I tell you what, for 4 or 5 innings, he's been pretty good.
Yeah, Tony.
Yesterday, you said Matt potentially, if he's the game 1 starter, could be 3 times in the World Series. The third time would be relief, I presume. Not
yeah.
You wouldn't want guys coming back on short.
No. Game 7 will be the regular starter, but that's the game where you just there's nobody left on the bench. You pile him up in that bullpen.
So Syndergaard would be game 7 if he got that far.
Right.
And just on Cespedes, I know he didn't do much today. What's your...
Feels a lot better. Talked to him. He really felt good. He's going to hit tomorrow. He's going to hit on Monday. But he just said he wanted to take one more day, make sure the injection really takes effect. But he said he feels a whole lot better. So,
Terry, I know, obviously, I'm sure you know about Kansas City's success against the Heat, those 95-plus pitches. So how much does that change maybe how you're going to approach them versus how you've approached the 2 teams you faced already and beat?
Well, Jared, I'm going to tell you right now, successful pitchers pitch to their strengths. It's like everything else. You get these scouting reports and you say, well, boy, this guy can't hit a curveball. Well, I don't have a curveball. So you invent one, so you're sitting there saying, I remember years there'd be a report of a first guy, this guy's a first ball fastball hitter. Hey, look, if your fastball is, if that's your main pitch, that's what you're throwing. What you got to do is make good pitches with it. So we're not going to change the way we go about things. We've still got to pitch to our strength, and our strength is power. And so we'll use that, and we'll change speeds and throw strikes. And again, if you make quality pitches, your chance for success is going to rise. And that's what we've done. We've made big pitches when we needed to.
Terry, you went over some of the reasons yesterday, but I guess just what was the main thing that I guess forced you, or not forced you, made you swap with Jacob and Matt to start Matt?
Well, first of all, Matt was going to pitch next, so I don't want to give him 5 more extra days if I can help it. I thought that obviously Jake could use an extra day. We see the benefits of how he pitches when he's a little bit better rested at this time of year. So that set, that was good. We like that, and we like the fact that Noah's going to be here at home. So, one of the discussions was, wow, you go into Kansas City, and they're a great club. They play very well in their park. Well, we think we'll run 2 pretty good pitchers at him, and hopefully, get 1 if not 2. So we just thought it set up good that way. But we just thought the extra rest for Jake would help, even though it's only 1 day extra. But.
Terry, how do your top 3 pitchers differ personality-wise? What makes them tick?
Well, they may carry themselves a little differently than each other, but when they're on that slab, they're pretty much the same. They are extremely competitive. They are none of them give in, and I think they feed off one another, to be honest, because they're very, very similar in the makeups when they're pitching. I've seen all of them have a bad night, and every one of them has reacted exactly the same way. Extremely frustrated with themselves, and then dig their spikes in to get themselves ready for their next start. So I think there's more similarities than there is differences. And that's why I like them, and that's why I think, I'm looking really excited down the road to see Zach Wheeler in that mix, because you had another great arm like that, and he feeds off that same energy. Boy, that's pretty impressive rotation.
Do you think every day will be a different DH, or well, I don't know, there's only 2 games there first, but
Adam, I have no idea yet. I haven't even haven't looked at the matchups, or haven't got there yet. So there could be. We just haven't put the lineups down yet.
The bridge to Familia is such an important piece of what you need to do, especially against this team. Is Clippard still your 8th inning guy, or is it Reed/Clippard more?
Well, Rich, we think Tyler Clippard, and he's shown it, is very, very effective against left-handed hitting, and they got a lot of it. So Addison, on the other hand, is really effective against right-handed hitting. So we'll see what the situations are in those innings coming up. And, John Neese got a huge out for us, and there might be a spot where, Hosmer or somebody else, he's going to have to get one of those guys out. So, that bridge to Familia, can go in different directions, but the trails will all be the same names, I'll tell you.
Terry, last year the Royals were within an eyelash of winning the World Series. Is that an intangible asset for them, or is every year an independent start from scratch?
No, I think you need, I think it's helpful that you've been there. You know what the pressure's like. You know what the whole scenario's like. That's a whole different pregame and a lot of other things that go along with it. But so if you've lived it once, you're better off because of it. You're not affected by it the next year. And so our guys are going to go through it the first time. It's just like Monday. There's a press session Monday that all 25 guys got to be involved. We've never done that before. So, it's going to be new and it's going to take time. And, we've got guys that even though it's just a workout, it takes them, they go through a process to get ready to work out, and now that's going to be affected. So, we got to get used to some things where Kansas City's already seen it.
Yeah, Mike.
So just seeing what you've seen of them on TV, what stands out about the Royals?
Well, they're very good offensively. Because they're parked, they may not have the big power numbers some teams have, but they've got power. They're not a team that walks a lot, but they don't strike out a lot either. So, which means they're going to put the ball in play, which means your defense has to step up. And I think that's going to be one of the areas where, we certainly have to, and I've said, and Tim does a great job, and so does Tommy, of positioning those guys. But we've got to do a real good job in that ballpark, because that's a big park. And when they put the ball in play, we got to get them in the right spots.
Mike.
Terry, you kind of just addressed it a little bit, but the Royals are kind of unique in baseball now because they don't strike out. They have such a high contact rate, and they predicate themselves putting in play and causing trouble. Is there any way you can adjust to that, just leading up to a series, especially after playing such different teams in the Cubs and Dodgers?
It's hard to say. Our guys strike people out. So if we're not striking people out, we better catch the baseball. So now we got to really, as I just said, we've really got to make sure, defensively, we got the right people there. So, but I still think we'll strike some people out because I think our guys got good stuff. So that's why it's going to be exciting for me to watch, these matchups as they unfold. Our good pitching against their good hitting, and they've got pretty good pitching too. We've seen Edison Volquez for 3 years, and he never threw like he's throwing now. So it's the World Series. It's going to be fun.
Okay.
Terry, would you agree they're a team that's fundamentally sound all around, every component that doesn't really beat themselves, and what kind of challenges that present for you guys when they don't give you that too many opportunities?
Kenny, we got to. Well, number one, we got to do. We certainly have to put the ball in play like they do. If you're going to strike out against them, and we don't have a lot of speed. So, and that isn't a park that's necessarily power friendly. So we've got to do a better job of hitting the ball around the field and running the bases. I think we're, even though we're not a base stealing team, I think we're a good base running team. So we've got to use that to some advantage.
With greater emphasis on defense, will Garris play a little more? Might he play a little bit more?
I don't know. Marty. We've talked about it, but we haven't written the lineups to decide where guys are going to play.
But it's a consideration.
It's a consideration, yeah.
Howie over here.
Terry, the Royals offensively provide a lot of balance. Hosmer, Moustakas, Gordon, left-hand hitters. How important is someone on your team going to be that left-hand guy to be a spot lefty to get those outs when you need it?
Well, it's going to be big, and that's why, I said, the job John Neese did that night against Anthony Rizzo here, that's going to happen again. And so we're going to turn to him to certainly, hey, look, get that big out when we need to. But they can hit left-handed pitching too. They're a good team. You don't get to the World Series 2 years in a row without being really good, and they're really good. So we're just excited to be there.
Terry, the other day in Chicago, Joe Torre said that even after all the years managing the Mets and the Cardinals, he really didn't feel like his managerial career became legitimate until he got to the World Series. Do you feel that yourself now? You're now at another level. Your legacy has changed because you finally got to the World Series, and you're now in that group, that elite group.
I got to tell you, guys, seriously, I have never thought about myself in any phase of this game to think I have something to prove, that I have to have a legacy. I love what I do. I have a great time on the field. This is all I've ever done. And I don't, Buck Showalter's never won. And I consider Buck one of the best managers in the game. And I don't think that's ever going to change. I was very excited when Jim Leyland, who you guys know is so close to me, when he won in Miami because – here I was with him and watched what a good manager this guy is in Pittsburgh, and then he went through all those tough years, and he finally got the chance. But you know what? I've always thought this guy's still a great manager, no matter if he won the World Series or not or got to there. But this is certainly an honor, and I'm thrilled. I've had good teams, and this team stepped up when you need them to step up, and I'm riding the gravy train because of it. So, but I got to tell you, I have never thought that, my managerial career was going to be based on the fact that I never got to the World Series, because there's probably been a lot of guys, a lot better managers than me that never got there.
Terry, just to follow up on before, you said, it's the World Series. That just means something. I know you said the other night, you remember you got to stay home from school from the 1960 World Series. What other images come to mind when you just hear the words World Series?
Well, I've watched a lot of them. Through the years, I've seen a lot, and, it's the ultimate stage. It's the ultimate, you go back and watch the Koufax games, and, when all my years get to know these guys and talked about the World. I'll tell you, I'll give you something that happened to me yesterday. Who was it asked me the other day, who called me? Was there anybody unique that called me? Was it you, Kev? Guess who called me yesterday? Don Newcomb. Don Newcomb. And I got off the phone after talking to him, and I said, Nuke, how's the World Series? He said, it's the greatest experience you'll ever have in baseball. And I got off the phone, and I told my wife, I said, there's a lot of people aren't going to understand what an important phone call that was. But from one of the greatest pitchers that ever played this game to take a minute at 90 years old and call me and wish me luck. So, I'm going in pretty excited after that phone call.
Terry, clubhouse chemistry has been a huge factor for you guys, and when you talk about how Kadai is taking Conforto under his wing and Kelly Johnson with Wilmer Flores, but they all say, too, that the manager and the coaches always tell them what their role is going to be. Can you talk about that relationship with your players, and when veterans like that say that about Terry Collins, how does he feel?
Well, Rich, that's what I learned through the years. I've learned it through the years. The communication, the line of communication from the manager to the player today has to be open both ways, and to the point where you have to go out of your way to make sure that you're communicating, even though you think to yourself, well, they know that. don't take for granted anything, and I try not to. You know, when in September when we had all those players here, I told everybody the night before who was playing the next day. Maybe didn't write the lineup necessarily, but I told who was playing and who wasn't, because I think those guys all needed to have a day to prepare or a night where they could go home and take a deep breath and say, I'm off tomorrow. I'm easy. And I'll tell you what, I was shocked the response that I got from it. The guys saying, we really appreciate, you know, the knowing when we're playing and when we're not playing. Where in the past, I would have never done that. I always came to the park every single day ready to play. Probably why I wasn't a big leaguer. But, you know, I always thought that was what you did, and I found out that's not necessarily the case. But I know what we do now with my coaching staff and myself works. It works here. I'm not saying it works everywhere, but it works here, and I think we got great response and great play because of it.
Steve. Terry, you've had a few days to savor Daniel Murphy's streak. How would you describe it now?
Still unbelievable. I mean, it's incredible what he did. You know, it wasn't just the home runs. It was the timing in almost every one of them. I mean, it seemed like, oh, we need a big hit here. Whack, he hit a homer. And that's the part that was, you know, how he kept coming up in huge spots and producing. That's why every time he'd hit a home run, you look down the bench and the guys were just going, wow. I mean, come on. Nobody's seen this. So it was really, really, really fun to watch and be a part of it all.
Any last questions for one or two more?
Terry, at the end of spring training, you guys all got together as a group and talked about expectations and what it would be like in New York if you guys got to this point. How big do you think that was as far as just setting the tone all throughout the year? I
think it was huge, Mark. I tell you, it set down in the minds of every player in spring training what the expectations were. And they were part of it. You know, I tell you guys every spring I meet with the veteran guys, and they're involved in the rules, they're involved in dress codes, they're involved in practice times and, you know, different things. They have a voice. Well, here we are in this meeting, and they're expressing this belief that we're going to play, you know, we're going to win. Well, guess what? You're going to buy into it then. You're buying into whatever it takes to get there. And that might mean extra batting practice, or that might mean, you know what, taking a back seat to somebody else who maybe is playing better at that particular time. And they did. And that's why I said what a great clubhouse it was, that the only thing that was focused on every day was how are we going to win today. And I just got done talking to 2 or 3 guys today, and they said, hey, whatever, if it's going to help us win, I'm on board.
How much did Tough add to that?
Tough?
As a guy who won a championship, he addressed the group in that.
He added a lot. Well, so, I mean, David talked about, you know, playing in postseason in New York and what it means and what it's like. And, you know, and they talked about the excitement of it all and how thrilling it was and how he just, you know, rekindle the energy in October. And so, and our guys are experiencing that. And that's why even, you know, yesterday, look, you came out today and you just, when the guys were stretching, they were talking about the World Series, playing in the World Series. I don't know where else that happens.
Last one, Tony.
Terry, after everything that's happened, I'm just curious what Matt's reaction was just to you telling him he's starting game 1 and how you told him all that.
Well, I called them all in today, gave them all the reasons, and told them what the rotations were. And I said, to him, I said, you ready for it? And he looked at me and he said, damn right. So, and I told him, listen, there might be, you know, obviously you're going to get 2 starts, but game 7 may be something. He said, I'll be ready. So that's the only guy I know. I know that the persona is something else, but that's the only guy I know.